Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from a Gothic castle somewhere just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pine Hills Palace, in the Extreme Studios. It's hard to keep a straight face tonight. Of course,
Beneath
I've
the
already
forest.
What?
Beneath the broadcasting live beneath the forest, the Pine Hills forest.
Yeah, it's
In
we're
old
doing
time.
Deathstalker, ladies and gentlemen, 1983, a Conan the Barbarian ripoff, but not just any ripoff, because a theme has emerged, which we have a tendency to go in and on Tuesday nights here. We're going with what we call B-level films. And by this, we don't mean shitty films or bad films, because there's a lot of big budget movies that are really bad. See current cinema. Some are good, obviously, but there's something to be said for people that get a lot of bang for their buck. And tonight we're going to be talking Roger Corman's Deathstalker, like I said, from 1983. Obviously a blatant thing. But here's the thing. Roger Corman, RDV, he's been around a very long time. A lot of people like William Shatner and other major actors got the role in small films that led up to it, small independent things. Roger Corman at some point went like down to South America, I think Argentina, made a bunch of films with his studio. This guy got a lot out of what little money he spent. For example, this made about $450,000 was made for that, but it grossed over 10 times that. So it's being printed money on itself. And it's not great, but there's something to it. They don't just shit on it, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I was looking up his production company, Roger Corman's, and how many movies they pumped out and stuff. Some where he was uncredited, but he still had parts of it. A lot of B-level movies. He just died last year. Roger Corman did.
Yeah.
And then a few years before that, his brother, Gene, I think his name was, just died in 2020. So I mean, their company that they had was bought out obviously by Disney. Disney bought the rights to it,
Oh, that's a shame.
Sold, so Disney owns basically the Roger Corman kind of movies right now. But they're also kind of limbo right now because, like I said, this is Howard Cohen or Howard Cohen, yes. We know we're not new to this. This is the first of like 4 films he did in the 80s. Barbarian Queen and Barbarian, the second one, number 2, are also part of these 4 movies that are made. So I figured, like, well, let's go with Deathstalker. Let's we've been talking about this. Now this is Lana Clarkson's kind of like her first appearance before she did the Barbarian Queen.
Put her on the map.
Yeah. Literally her character, and like I said, some people roll their eyes. Her character was a warrior that was going to rescue the princess, to save the princess who's basically been kidnapped by this evil magician who had this chalice and something else, the amulet, that he's able to basically take over the kingdom. And he's always been searching for this magical sword, who this witch had hidden from him. It's supposed to be the gods of creation created these, and if you had all 3 of them, you had unstoppable, unlimited power. It basically cued the gift of Skeletor, unlimited power. No, and
kind of, sort of.
Yeah. So this guy, what's his name? Rick Hill is actually the actor in here. Swell, buff guy, no different than the Beastmaster guy actor.
Literally, yeah. Go ahead.
It's the same quality. You're gonna go on this. There's gonna be boobs. There's gonna be a lot of girls with thongs. There's gonna be a lot of violence, half naked men. Well, it makes sense because this is supposed to be like a not a medieval, but more like a barbarian time.
Yeah, it's like Conan, stuff. Sword and sandals, as we say.
You can say a lot of them are Conan the Barbarian ripoffs. Honestly, I think Conan the Barbarian.
Breathe.
I know.
Inhale.
Exhale. No. No. I like the fact that I don't compare this to Conan the Barbarian, but I'll say this though: Conan the Barbarian opened the door so other movies like this could have a chance to be made. And there's no way they're ever going to be the greatest, but to a science fiction nerd, like if you watch Gore or Gore the Outlaw, without Conan you wouldn't have this. But honestly though, I thought this was actually a really decent movie.
For what it is, it's actually pretty good.
I've seen,
for what it is, and we'll talk about what it is.
It's no different than watching Hawk the Slayer.
I know. This is one of those kinds of movies. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate these films. Back in the day, I saw this like, oh look, it's just another titty film. But actually, I sit down and actually watch it. There's a freaking pig monster in this, which I love.
It's a titty film that has a big monster in it.
No, this feels like a Jim Henson combination movie. It was somewhat
I would say that minus the 4, 5, 6, whatever the count is of forced intercourse. I'll just say to try to
there's
up the algo. But there's a lot of sweet lovemaking in here, no matter which way you like it.
There's a lot of people being crushed between their heels and the lamentation of their women crying.
Yes, they include what Conan didn't. I'll just say that.
Yeah, this is basically it's a reluctant hero who basically he wasn't really a hero. He didn't want to be a hero. It's a guy who he didn't force himself on women. Well, not yet, but but he basically he'd kill and steal, and he basically he had somewhat just heart. But obviously, like the movie is kind of like the plot's.
There's no plot.
Yeah, really. It's basically
there's 3 items taken from X, Y to Z, and then end. That's it.
Yeah, it's basically every sci-fi fantasy movie. There's an evil wizard. There's a person who reluctant hero doesn't want to be a hero, is forced to be the hero, ends up meeting a girl. That girl tragically gets killed by another person, but in the end he still saved the princess, and at the end he destroys the evil wizard and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although I gotta appreciate this, though, there's something they normally don't do in other movies. He let the people kill them.
We're going to talk about the ending. Absolutely, save that. Yeah, that's yes.
Let's just say the wizard goes out like Mussolini.
Oh my God! Yeah. So here's this thing with this movie. It came out, I think it was in '83, and I vaguely recall the name of it, and it was surprising because when we did Barbarian Queen. I obviously Conan I'm a huge fan of, and I think one of the movies I go back to in terms of themes is when you treat a movie, even if it's sword and sorcery fantasy with adult themes in it, it can be done well, but you have to commit. And I think you see that in Conan. And to your point, with its success, it allowed a lot of these spinoffs to be made. Now, a lot of films, especially horror films that can be made on the cheap, can draw money. So that's one reason why they're made. And a lot of people like to think they're lowbrow, they don't count. And we definitely saw a lot of interesting films in the 70s come out, and then pornography and X-rated films and those kinds of things started coming a bit more mainstream. So you had a little bit of this kind of crossover. So you had your films that most people would go see, and a few rated R films. And back then, cable would show only certain films, and they have to be after a certain time at night. But then you get somebody that makes a movie for, like, say, a young teenager or something at the time.
Fan service films.
This is what you get. I mean, honestly, and it's a boob film. Let's be honest.
It's fan service.
I will say this, in all seriousness. I lament the fact that while there's a tremendous amount of gorgeous women and men out there today, that this movie, if they treated it just almost, if you doubled the budget, let's say, or they made it more R-rated, which it's really R-rated, but if it didn't feel like a juvenile kid film, this could have been something better. Because here's the thing about the film when you watch it. The worst thing about it to me, and I'll go over a couple things real quick, is the action's horrendous. There's a few bad edits, but in a cheap film, you're going to have that. I will say this, though. That's only one of the few bad things about it besides lack of a plot, because I don't care about it. I don't really care for the main dude, but he's good looking. The men in here, they've got the baby oil on and all that. They're hunky. They look like the role, right? The women, ton of gorgeous women in here, and they are not ashamed to display them in all their youthful glory, let's say. I mean, and I appreciate that. But here's something I want to throw in too. One name you may not know, but I want to throw out to some of the old timers here on the Extreme Movie Show that go back to me, like as an 80s kid. I grew up only watching certain shows, and one show that was very popular at the time that I would see occasionally in my household was something called Hee Haw. There was a guitarist on there named Roy Clark, who's just a phenomenal guitarist, whether you like country or not. Just spit facts, but they had a lot of like women on there in these skits, and one of them was named was Barbi Benton, and she's like the one that gets dragged in into the set piece early on. She's stunning. So I mean, she's a name, not just Lana Clarkson, who's the blonde in here. All the side women are phenomenal, and it's like Roger Corman, double thumbs up for you for finding beautiful women and putting them in there and actually making them look beautiful. I mean, and not being ashamed of it, right?
Yeah, she wasn't only on in Hee Haw, she also won Playboy too. Yep. Yeah, so it's like it said. A lot of people are like, yeah, they call these booby films, over stuff, and there's no like, they like a lot of people they put it down because it's just a titty film. So actually, it said these actually are well made. The music
is great. It really is very. It's scored very well, and they turn. At least for half the film, the fog machines are up to 11, which gets a +1 for me. I am addicted to.
Oh my
those
gosh,
movies.
the witch when she's talking about the sword and stuff, and how the wizard transformed. That it's basically you get the Evil Dead thing, the camera.
Yeah,
you see going over the land instead of the grass stuff. Now they use it twice.
Yes.
Which so you can tell it's a real
recycled.
But
does anybody bitch about James Bond? And like we always bring this up in Goldfinger, where he's driving and it's sped up really fast when he crashes. I mean, come on.
Okay, we've watched Crawl. Crawl is no different than this. In the same, you had laser guns. In this, you have a sword that glows because the sword is basically, if you're holding it, you can't be killed because it gives you power, it protects you. Mm-hmm. And like I said, so this guy, it said, well-built guy, and same like I said, it's the same acting quality as you'd see in Beastmaster. Now, if you hate Beastmaster and you think that's horrible, you're probably not going to like this. These are acquired tastes, especially offended because, oh my gosh, there's just too much nudity in this. It makes you feel uncomfortable. Like,
there's nothing wrong with nudity. The guys in here,
so here's my thing.
Or got a lot of skin they're showing.
People are like, oh, it's softcore, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, well, it's not hardcore. If you want hardcore, you can that's a totally different thing. It's better than like they actually put effort into this. The story, like I said, the story is cliche, but you're not going in there because, oh my gosh, this is going to be an A+ movie. This is going to be better than Star Wars and all this stuff. It's going to be better. It's like, no, you're not going in there like it. This is a movie where you can just hang out with friends and just watch a movie and kind of make fun of it if you want to, or just enjoy it's high fantasy. And
it's a good-looking film. I mean, watching it the way the lights are and the colors, you said something really good. They put effort into it. There's a scene where they've the bad guys have captured Barbi Benton's character, and they drag her in, and they drag her into the room where they're keeping all their slaves, their women. And the thing is, it's like there's one in the cage, and she's basically nude. There's one standing there kind of watching. So they have a variety of shapes and sizes in there. But there's two women swimming in what looks like this fountain in the middle, and just the way it's shot, it looks, it's a beautiful set piece. Yes, it's a set piece, and some of the makeup doesn't look good for the disfigured creatures, and that kind of ruins it. But other than that, you're watching the people, and they look good. I know it sounds superficial, but that's important in these kind of movies.
You got the guy who is like Selmarin, he's the guy who basically, we first come across the cave with the sword at the troll there. He's like, help me, I am cursed. Like he's like a little puppet guy, and it's like, it leads him out. You can tell it's a little guy. They have a little whatever the correct term is, I guess, vertically challenged, midget, little person. They keep changing the definition what you're allowed and not allowed to call them. But anyway, you can tell it's a person in a robe, like Warwick Davis height. And then so he gets from the water. This is clever of me. They have such a low budget. How are they gonna show this guy being transformed back into a normal human? Well, you have the guy be blind. He can't because he's been in the cave for 20 years, and he's like, "Where's the kid?" Leading him out, and he falls in the water, and then he gets out of the water. It's a human again. Like, to me, I don't need like the CG and all that stuff. This is what you did before CG. You had there was some stop motion puppet here and stuff, as far as some of the characters, and then they're just like said, there's just a different little theatrical stuff they added to the movie. I said the costumes, the music, the authenticity, it was fun.
Yeah, some people might have heard of Lana Clarkson if they're younger or if they're into pop stuff. And this is kind of a sidebar to it because I've forgotten about it because
the Crypt Keeper that killed her.
Well, the guy that killed her was Phil Spector, who's known for what's called the Wall of Sound. And I'm going to digress here for a moment and explain kind of and relate it. Phil Spector is one of the guys that really kind of, you knew his name, you heard about him, he produced a lot of stuff. So music today is different. I can sit here while I'm talking to you guys. I can have my keyboard going, I can have my guitar or whatever playing, put something up, produce it all myself. There's a lot of people who like to think they're good, whatever, but it takes somebody to be able to hear it and make it sound good. And one example I'll use is a guitarist from the 80s, Yngwie Malmsteen, who produces his own stuff, and it sounds like shit, but when you had a producer, it sounds well. He's one of the first guys that took people in there like Ike and Tina Turner, a few others, and said, hey, wait a minute, if I record you singing a line, and then I have you recording the same line again, and then double them, which would be on reel-to-reel tape, it's going to sound big. And I won't even get into the other stuff there too, but he produced Beatles albums. This guy was no friggin' joke, but he was a weird dude. like all of them are, and somehow they hooked up because I guess when she's in her 40s, she was broke and she ended up getting shot. And I remember hearing his name going, Phil Spector, like Ronnie Spector,
I
Phil
don't think
Spector.
I don't remember them dating or talking about their dating. I just remember that he basically liked her and she didn't like him.
Whatever happened.
Yeah.
Supposedly it was suicide and he died or whatever like that. So this is about 20 years ago, and it was making rounds because when we think of Hollywood, we try not to want to think of all the dark side and stuff and all that too, but his name wasn't there. And you go, hey, for an actress like this, who I'm not saying anything about her person, I don't know her, obviously for her to go from making these kinds of movies, which I'm not saying she made a killing, but she definitely made money, beautiful woman, to in her 40s go to be like a server somewhere in Los Angeles and, you know, get picked up by a dude or whatever their situation was. I don't judge, you know, you do what you do, right? But the thing is when we did Barbarian Queen with her, I almost had to press you guys to say, hey, let's try some of these sword sorceries because it was a thing from the 70s going into the 80s, right? And you know what? That's wildly popular here on this channel. Who knew, right? And so I think it's interesting to go, there's reasons why these things come up every now and then, or whether it's an unfortunate incident like with Spectre and her, because you know, at the end of the day, she was in a couple films like this that even if they're not like the greatest film ever made, they're entertaining. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, this was made with effort. Yes, some of it's bad. The plot's not the best in the world. Doesn't have to be, right? So I'd rather have a movie that's like this where there's a little bit of effort and he goes, hey, we got to make this at least good enough. We'll make some things stand out. We'll try not to have too many screw-ups. And then you're good, because I can find just as many flaws with some of the new movies that are out there today that really piss me off because they have a bigger budget, bigger crew, and everything else. This is a guy on a $450,000 budget in the early 80s put this thing together. That's incredible, and Corman always did that. He had an eye for it, but you know what? When you don't spend a lot of money on stuff, you can do what you want to do. And so he's one of the first guys that really do all that. And then, of course, I think of John Carpenter following his footsteps, right? Yeah,
I'm going through IMDb right now. Her stuff. She just did a lot of TV movies stuff. She was on The Love Boat, or episode of that. Amazing Stories. Then she did Barbarian Queen, Emperor Strikes Back, which is 1990. Then she was on Silk Stockings, Wings, an episode, or I guess a movie called Vice Girls. A lot of these were really like low budget. 18 Rules of Justice TV series. Another 9.5 weeks stuff. She was in Black Scorpion, the TV series, but in the 2000s. And then she did her last TV movie she did was March, which came out in 2001. She was Dr. Alan Taylor, and then James Dean TV movie. She is James Mansfield, uncredited.
That's the Crush Art Ball woman for the younger generation. That was a big deal. Very
good-looking woman. You know, 70s and 80s. You know, she was also on Three's Company, The Jeffersons, New Mike Hammer, Riptide, Knight Rider, Who's the Boss, A-Team, Night Court, Wings. It's like she was in all that stuff. But overall, like I said, if you never given these movies a chance, check them out. Like, I'm talking to Rob, it's like behind the scenes, what do we want to do as far as for the more pull? Said, well, we could do more Mel Gibson, some more of the big name celebrities. I said, why don't we do some more of these low budget like B movies like this, fantasy, you know, babes, guns, swords, whatever, you know, stuff that you don't really see people talking about in movie reviews.
Well, what themes are out there today in modern cinema? Seriously, you've got your I call them CGI crap fest because the CGI sucks. And I don't care how big the movie is. And I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Some of it looks like shit. Same thing with the Kongs. And the more they produce, the watered down they get. So you got big budgets because they want to make a big return. They won't fund a lot of this stuff. I've mentioned before that the modern day version of what I think is successful in this regard is what I call the Blumhouse model, which means you're not going to spend a lot of money on it. You're going to give you reasonable creative control, and we'll see what happens, right? If any of you have watched recently the movie that just came out this weekend, not Werewolves, but The Wolfman, I watched it. It's really a drama. It's not a horror film, in my opinion.
Views.
Yeah, and I understand completely why, because the movie, I will say this, it's about the transformation. It's not about the history, and that's it. So I don't have a problem with it, but part of me goes, man, you did fucking Upgrade and you did The Invisible Man from a couple years ago. This feels like this is the third of my contract. Let me just finish it. You know what I'm saying? So I, right or wrong or whatever, I felt a little disappointed with something like this. I know what I'm getting, right? But again, what do you have today that you can go, oh, there's these types of films or that? It's like you don't. It's like you have a big budget something
if
or
you're
remake.
gonna find any fantasy sorcery stuff, it's not gonna be American. It's gonna be Korean or just Asian cinema. They over there are still doing they're still doing a sci-fi, fantasy, magicians, evil wizards, whatever. Like, but it's not like it is like it with this. This is more like your what they're doing over there is soap opera, in the general hospital. Oh, evil person shows up, oh, it's the brother, twin, whatever. This is like watching like Lady Hawk or some of the other stuff. He said if you were in the 80s, high school, if you were playing D&D, these movies came out, you're like, holy crap. It's like they're actually, you have Cohen the Barbarian, and then you got a few of these. You probably rolled your eyes some of these, like, yeah, these aren't that great, but hey, we get to see naked girls,
Yeah, dork, loser, nerd.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah.
Like, boobs.
But honestly, different than a comic book. If you get some of those, Robert E. Howard was writing Conan back in the early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
You had a guy who would go and save women, and then what this guy did, he started making out with the women, and something would usually happen. Like you saw in this movie, that the guy shows up and cock blocks him, and the woman runs away.
I mean, that's about right, isn't it?
It is. But I mean, yeah. And then I love this not only it's not just humans in here. You got like a couple ogres and trolls and stuff,
mm-hmm.
and then you had some it was just creepy. And then you had like I guess it was Henry, who was because this guy was transforming. This evil wizard was transforming people. So there's like little like chest and a little comes
He's
out.
like a slimmed down, serious sounding John Candy.
Yeah,
with that awful little tattoo on his head.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I kept thinking is like, man, this guy looks like he just came out of WWE back in the or WF back in the 80s, late 90s, and it's just like it's just like a badly character, and just like it's like. That's Frank over there. He lives in the trailer house. Now he got a tattoo on his head. He's part of his biker gang, and now he's got magic powers. That's like literally that's what it looked like, because it was just a white dude. It wasn't like it's like some of the movies you'd see with what's his guy from Kung Fu, David Carradine. You actually had the sorcerers, would be like the dude from Big Little China.
Yeah.
You get like Asian evil wizards. It was always that. This he decided to make a white guy who just stumbled across these things and just uses him for his own self gain. He used to be the wizard for this king, and then he kicked the king out and kidnapped the king's daughter. And then, like I said, it was interesting. But
this movie is a goof about 5 minutes in, because I didn't know if I was watching this right, but when you watch it, and the print on Tubi that I sent the link up there is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
It starts off with these, ugly looking humanoid types.
They're like trolls.
I guess they're lepers, right? To me, they look like leprosy, right? This dude's got this chick apparently kidnapped because he doesn't try to save her, because when these guys surround him, he takes out his bag of gold coins, which is probably 3 right? And then he runs off, and the chase is horrible, but it's a nice set piece, and there's a lot of fog, right? And it's in the middle of the day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bullshit dark filming. And the girl's laying there, and finally the good guy, the way he's introduced, he looks like, if you guys ever watched Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, there's a guy that played the third in charge to Khan, or second in charge at the helm. His name was Judson Scott. He starred in a short-lived ABC TV series called The Phoenix, which I still think is great. I cannot find a good copy of it to review, otherwise I would do that here on the Extreme Movie Show. But anyway, he's a good-looking dude, and he pops up, and one dude's getting ready to jack his horse, and he's like, "That's my horse." I mean, it's so bad. But then when he has the bad fight, and he saves the girl, and the girl's looking, it's like, is he going to rape her? Is he going to let her go? Is she going to be a main character? She's got her arms tied up, and what does he do? He takes his dagger, makes like he's going to stab her, raises her arm up, he shoves the dagger into the tree, puts her hands above it, and then yanks her hands down, and then he goes into the softcore erotic kind of feeling her up thing, and she starts licking her lips, and I'm like, okay, she's going to thank him with their body. But then he gets interrupted, and he's like, "What do you want?" in that really horrible voice, right? It's so cheesy enough that it's like, I think they knew that going into, but they did try to put effort into a lot of the scenes. Even the fighting scenes, like you say, which are bad. The point is the evil guy's getting all the warriors to come to his town so they can fight each other with the promise of giving them something. Why? so he can kill themselves off and he can kill the weakened survivor, right? And so even the fights in there are kind of lame, but here's the thing: beautiful women watching. It's filmed well enough where it feels like this big fight's going on. I mean, it's certainly no Gladiator, but at the same time too, you go, hey, these guys kind of look like what you would expect. They look kind of shitty. Some guys are jacked as fuck. It's not, I can say it's not bad for what it is. They do a good job of it. Yeah, definitely B-level.
I'm looking up Rick Hill. Apparently, there's a TV series back in 81, 82. It's called Today's FBI. In case of the modern post J. Edgar Hoover and U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation. He wrote 19. He was writing it. He had writing the show script stuff for 19 at least 19 episodes. You had back in the day. He was actually on this show too. It had Mike Connors, Joseph Kelly, Carol Potter, and Harold Sylvester, and a few others. So this guy also popped up in a lot of the things too. He would Magnum PI. He was on Cheers, Dukes of Hazzard. Then he does Deathstalker in '83.
He's a good-looking guy. He played football. He's legitimate enough. Now, whether he's A-level on a blockbuster franchise like a Cohen, I don't know.
I'm shocked because I was looking at this Dune Warriors, which came out in 1991. He's in it with David Carradine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Dune Warriors, is this a ripoff of Dune? Or is this a totally separate thing? But I'm like, David
Warriors
Carradine's
are doing, I think, separate.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it. It's got David Carradine in it. It's called Dune Warriors. I'm like, it's a 4.0 movie on IMDb, but it's got David Carradine. I almost have to watch now. And,
here's the thing, too. I'm going to tie something even recent to this with stuff that's going on. Just kind of give another example of how these parallels occur. There's a movie that my wife watched, and I was making dinner or whatever, and so I was watching it too. And it's called, I think, The Last of Us or something. And what it is, it's Ryan's wife, the chick who started in the Surfer one or whatever. They're married couple. You know who I'm talking about, Blake Lively, right? And what it is she plays like this woman who's got who had like a childhood sweetheart, but then like marries a dude.
Oh, you're talking about. Okay. Well, I thought you said Last of Us. Last of Us is a totally different movie.
Well, whatever. It's something like that. I don't really give a rat's ass. The point is it was a book, so the film rights got sold, and so they made it.
Yeah.
And so she stars in it, and you can argue whether or not she's attractive or mannish or tomboyish, or that she's got a nice body. She's got a feminine quality to her. But here's the thing. I watched it, and it's slickly produced. The guy in it, the husband's a good-looking dude. Her love interest isn't a complete sap. He's a good dude, and do they end up together? It ends with us. There you go. So it's a story that we know. We've seen it before. It's not really anything dramatically different. New York City sells flowers, blah, blah, blah. But the point is the guy she married is like fucking abusing her. But you don't really see it or know it. So is it really true or not? And then at the end, you see what happens, right?
He pushed her down the stairs and then claimed
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're watching it, and do you feel sorry for her? What's going on? Anything spectacular? And you watch it and you go, okay, no matter what you think about it, it's done professionally. You can have a conversation about it, right? Here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff going on between her because apparently the guy that portrayed her husband is the bad dude. He's going balls out against her because apparently she tried taking it over, and there's counter lawsuits. This is something she may not recover from.
But
and I don't normally get into this, but here's the point. Let's say you've got your own production company and you're like, shit, I've got a few backers. I can put $500,000 into something. What do I got to do? Well, let's come up with a story. We'll make it about 89 minutes long. We'll get people on this. They'll be beautiful. We just need to put something together here. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's on board. You knock it out. You get it done. Whereas you get a knockoff, option off of a book that may have been popular or a series that could be optioned. And then somehow somebody who's contracted to do it ends up taking it all over. The studio gets involved. You're the director. You're this or that. It was this dude's, I guess, company and everything going about doing it. And apparently she's misrepresenting things to the public.
But what does that have to do with this movie, though?
Here's what it has to do with it. Again, going back to what I said earlier, there's not very many small, low-budget films where people can do what they want, like the Blumhouse model. Corman is a great example of somebody that does it. So even if you have something like this that you look at and go, hey, this sucks, it's not even close to that quality, I could argue that you could pump a lot of movies out like this a lot and be very good at it too, without all the drama and backstage stuff and everything. It's just an example of when you get something bigger and you get more people into it, it usually screws it up. So when you have a big budget movie, they're almost generally made for the masses and not somebody's singular vision. As a consequence, the quality is not very high. Production values, maybe yes, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, something like this that, we're not telling you guys to go watch it, but this was definitely a thing to it. If you think, oh, just shove a bunch of beautiful half-naked women in here, three-quarters naked and G-strings, it's going to get eyes. It's going to sell. There's a market out there for fantasy, not just for guys.
The market for today is way different than it was back then.
You think so?
Because it wasn't for streaming. You actually could make it straight to DVD or VHS. That's what these were. These are meant to be. They're not meant to go into theaters. You're meant to go straight into VHS, which was a new thing, and then go into later they resurface on DVD.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, these are your late at night, midnight movies.
Yeah, exactly. You had to fill it up
because it was aimed towards adults. It was not aimed towards kids. Do
you think there's even a secondary market anymore?
Not really. I think I said with streaming killed everything. As far as that's why you see a lot of these big movies don't do so well.
Yeah.
Because they were originally, the market was you relied on the theater, and then you would also whatever you wanted to do, you include it in the DVD going forward. But DVD sales have gone down because everybody just stream things. Nobody buys physical anymore. I'd say not everyone. There are people who are smart buy physical, but most people do not buy physical because they don't want to have a bunch of movies. It's so easy to have it on Vudu or movies go anywhere and just pull it up when you want to. Heck, and then with the economy being so shitty for the past 4 years, I think a lot of people just pirated stuff. That's a big thing too. Piracy is gone up way before, thanks to the internet. The internet ruined movies because now people can they don't have to go in the theater though. They can just sit here, wait for about 2 months, find it on some illegal website. Back then, if you want to get an anime, you had to wait for somebody to get a bootleg.
Made copies,
make a bootleg copy. You couldn't just go out and do it. So, I said, you have a better chance of making more money with movies before the internet came along.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think what it is you just want to be entertained, which is what we talk about.
Yeah.
I know I talked a lot about themes because, again, you and I cover a lot of 80s stuff, but you're the 90s guy, and we try to make things up. So I try to relate something old new sometimes to it. And I think this is a good movie. And also Barbarian Queen, which I don't know if it's set in this universe, but stars Lana Clarkson in it. So when you capture something like this that really kind of put her on the map and you're like Roger Corman and you can milk it, I have absolutely no problem with it. We see it with all the countless remakes, whether it's like, say, Spider-Man or any of the other Marvel, DC characters, or even like, say, Punisher and stuff from comic books. At least here, like I say, people say, hey, we got to get it done, and we film it really quick. And it's, the last thing I'll say about it is we've talked about this a lot when we talk about old films like Humphrey Bogart, the studio system, where you were property of a studio and they could loan you out to other people, but boy, they could pump out 3 or 4 movies a year. They knew what the budget was. They seemed to be a lot more professional at getting something out. Now, the writing was certainly a lot better. I think a lot of those
came out
these
during the correct time, the 80s. There was something for everybody. Just like we talk about comic books, there's manga. Manga is reason it's done so better than comic books lately because comics became skewed to one person, was hijacked by feminists. And so as far as what they want to do, they want to skew it to one viewpoint, and they alienated everybody who was into those comic books. They've all left. Or manga, there's something for everyone, no matter what you like. And that's what the 80s was. 80s, you had a fan audience, for movies like this. You had fan audience for people who like scary movies, and there are people who love the periodic dramas came out. I said the 80s was so great because you had the freedom to do whatever movie you wanted to make, you could make it, and then you'd be a guaranteed audience. Now, I said, with everything's named for you said massive audience, so they have to limit what they can't do. Well, either we make it where a movie like 50 Shades of Grey, well, we might make it from the women might buy into it, but the men are going to go watch it.
Go see that.
Yeah. But I mean, so if you're going to make a movie like this, they tried to make it with Cohen, they remake it, bombed because not only did they limit themselves of what they could do because studios don't want to take the risk anymore, or it's a bad investment just in general because no one's going to go watch Conan a movie today. No one's going to go watch Hercules or watch a Beastmaster remake because there's a known track record when they do this stuff. they have to insert whatever political science or whatever commentary they have into it, so it ruins it. And also, it's misogynist to show a woman, topless or even in a bathing suit now these days.
There's a scene where Barbi Benton's character is talking to the wizard. She goes to walk off, and what it is he's putting a curse on his assistant to make it look like her or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you must not leave the dagger from your hand, otherwise he will, just that kind of talk. And she goes to walk off, but she stops, and she's got the sheer outfit on. She turns on, you can see her G-string. That's the total kind of, I'm going to turn around like a model or whatever like that, so you can get a lot of my side boob hanging out my butt. And it's clear that they shot it like it. I'm not offended. It's kind of tongue in cheek, and fun. It's just harmless.
That's what this movie
really
was.
Not saying
this
anything.
This movie's tongue in cheek. It's a sci-fi fantasy adventure comedy. So with it said you had the giant pig monster from if you've ever played the game Legend of Zelda, the big and just the puppets in here. The puppet, you knew what he was coming in this movie. You're watching here, you see the little puppet guys, and then the slave boy. He basically cuts the eye out and feeds it to the monster. The monster's like, "Oh, Grum eats it." He's like, "Good, Henry," and he's petting like the disgusting soccer puppet. Just like,
I know.
It's like what the heck, and then like the kids in there and then. Eventually, the kid dies, obviously, because he's cut the eyeball, and he's chained up a thing. But I was like,
I can't even get the decapitation scene good.
Well, that's another thing too. I love this when he's going up, he's chasing. He meets guys on horses. He knocks the guy off, and he hits another guy on the horse. You see a head, paper mache head, fly out, but you don't see it hit the ground really. You just kind of it's for a second. But honestly,
nailed with the decapitation, though. I have to say that.
But I gotta say though, decapitation though, I had no problem with that because I don't need to see the actual head on the stake or like that. Like other movies. It's quick, it's done, it's rolled over, and then the body comes over. But like I said, and then the blood is like jelly. I love it when he hits the sword and it's spreading out. It's like it looks like you had like a cherry donut and the jelly is just coming out.
Yeah, it's that late 70s, early 80s, very bright red fake blood until they went to
like it's.
Last thing I'll say, though, because we're talking a lot of goofy stuff, is you mentioned it early on, and I want to close with this, is that, there's something here because they created a world. They've got a lot of beautiful, seriously beautiful women, not okay-looking women or just women that are nude, so therefore, like, oh, it's nudie. These women are gorgeous, right? At the end, the evil wizard basically, he gets drawn and quartered on horses, and the townspepeople basically,
climb up,
and you're like, are they really going to do this? And then as soon as he gets ripped apart, they roll the credits. That's it. No love scene, no walking off together with the woman. No, nothing. That's kind of dark.
Yeah. Rick Hill basically, he has a sword and he's like, no more. He holds it up and then you see the electric and he holds a chalice and destroys the power. He says, no, too many men have been fighting over this power. No more, and gets rid of it. And then you see the guy, tied up his legs and the two horses and they let the horses go. And you don't see him get ripped apart, but you see the blood splat on everybody. It's like a blood spray. Yeah,
it's implied.
But I mean, like, normally if this was another movie, he would have killed the wizard himself, chopped the head off like you saw in Conan. You see the head roll down the steps for dramatic effect. He's just like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let the people that you tortured, I'm going to let them take you apart.
I will say
which was a chef's kiss because I prefer that.
Yeah. I don't know that we've reviewed this movie, but it should be one on our short list at some point, talking fantasy, because it's always on my top 10 list, I think of 81 or 82. If you liked Flash Gordon, that is this movie, or this movie is its cousin in a way.
Yes, same amount of acting level as far as quality, action scenes, low budget. I said it's got a musical score, it's got beautiful women, it's got good-looking dudes.
Yep.
And same kind of like play fighting. Boo, 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 boo. It's like it's good and slow down. It's like, I'd say it's on the same quality as Flash Gordon. Now, some people are like, "Well,
this movie would have benefited from a couple great lines, like when the chick's
Queen
daughter,
playing it.
Well, when the chick's daughter and Flash Gordon's getting a torch or whatever like that, and he just looks at his number 2 guy and he goes, "Bring me the boar worms." She's like, no, not the bull worms. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
they torture her. Or when the guys tell him about Gordon being alive and you just hear him going, Gordon's alive. You're like, fuck yeah. It's so, there's something adolescent in all of us that doesn't mind some of these juvenile type things. This movie, it has some okay lines like, "That's my horse," but it just wasn't memorable, right? So it's lacking a few home run things to it that would really have elevated it.
It needed more one-liners, and it needed an awesome soundtrack. I think Flash Gordon, one of the reasons it's so popular because is the Queen soundtrack.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of Highlander. You had the same Queen soundtrack. You get rid of Queen in these movies.
If Queen had scored this, you everybody would know it.
Oh yeah. Because Queen is such a huge monster of popularity of a band, you know, and Freddie Mercury singing and stuff, you know.
A dopey movie. I'm glad we watched it. I wasn't offended.
No, and that's the thing. It's like I go into this. I know it's gonna be. It's gonna be softcore, pretty much.
It wasn't first watch for you, correct?
No. It's like my third or fourth time watching.
Excuse me. Okay. I did not know
every 5 minutes, bro. No, it's kidding. Now, you can tell we dub this movies as a movie where this is where you pause the VHS when you're a kid.
Final thoughts, sir.
Final thoughts.
You're creeping everybody out. Yeah, it's your go-to movie.
Maybe I should go off camera and just talk like this the whole time. You get to see a lot of Clarkson boobies.
No.
Yes.
I don't want that kind of audience.
Yes. Why not? Yeah. Anyway, but like. Final thoughts. If you have not seen Beastmaster or even Deathstalker is one I put off for a long time because I wanted to get through other movies before we get the Deathstalker. I think we reviewed Dragon Slayer. I don't know if we have or not.
We may have. I know we've talked about it because that's actually a very solid film.
Dragon Slayer is another great movie too, like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to just doing a lot of these movies because. Like I said, they don't get talked about as much.
Exactly.
Just like our chat right now, we're watching live right now. You guys are speechless because you're just so just moved by this movie. Like right now, like I'm watching. So, Desert Rose, Jay, and anybody else who's watching right now, since we have 5 people watching, thank you for being here, man, and let me know. Thank you for being here, man or woman, or whatever you identify as. Troll,
and let us know
down below in the section. Let us know, what do you think of the movie? You've seen it before. Is this a movie you've seen before? If not, would you be willing to give it check it out? Now we talked about it and spoiled the heck out of it, or is you've seen this movie and you didn't think it was that great? Leave your own review down below in the comment section. Curious to see what other people think of this movie because. We'll talk about what we like in the parts we didn't like, like there's parts that I thought were stupid. Lana Clarkson's character short-lived and then just being taken out by the goon. I thought that was dumb.
Yeah.
And it's having killing her off. It's like, but I understand she was a small part of the character, and then just the whole thing with the evil wizard not being that menacing. Yeah.
But John Candy's never menacing.
It wasn't John. He looked anything like John Candy.
He sounded like he slimmed up and kind of looked like John Candy. I just thought, God, this guy's like John Candy.
The dude looked like Prince Albert.
He did.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Over the next 2 weeks, we have a few appointments and all that. So I'll be going probably solo next Sunday. The young 20-something Professor Pixel may be joining me. That being said, what I would like to ask out of you guys, and I typically don't ask very much at all. I just let you know I appreciate when you spend time with us. But I don't really have a lot of Twitter followers, or I know some people will make comments on the movies and this and that. How about you guys put the suggestion out there and respond to me on Twitter about what you'd like me to review, whether it's solo or with Pixel for Sunday, and I will pick that. And then we'll have something for Tuesday when RDV gets back.
There is someone who's been asking for a Ninth Gate review.
That is true. And we may end up doing that because that was the most recent one that we've got. I love the film tremendously. I can cover that solo. I can cover that with the young RDV or whatever. But a decision will be made shortly. And it's just a question of whether or not I'll have somebody to talk with, or if I'm just talking solo and taking questions and comments from the viewing audience. But Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp. Actually, you know what? Let's just call it. Let's do it.
I'll probably put a poll up in general, just asking which genre you like. Reviewing as far as martial arts or fantasy or 90s action.
Yeah.
And because I'm curious to see where you guys want us to go. This or go and just do more 90s stuff like we're doing, like Volcano and Dante's Peak and stuff, or do you want more of this, like, honestly, or even martial arts 70s? You know, we were doing that for a while. That was getting a lot of views, the 80s and stuff. So we're happy to talk about anything. We just want to know which you guys are more
Creepy
into.
bastard films, stalker films, romantic films. I mean, you know,
Well, aren't they the same?
These, right?
Aren't those the same from creepy stalker films and romance films?
They can be.
Yes, it
That's
can
the
be.
beauty of them all.
Hey, maybe we can do some more erotic thrillers. There's got to be more like a Body Double.
Body Double's the gold standard. Oh my god, but there are. All right, good night, everybody. I'll talk with you Sunday night.
All right.
Go Redskins.
Go Lana Clarkson.